it's funny. I just had this conversation with my son. My son's 14 years old, and I got to introduce him to the average of five. I said, take the five people you spend the most time with. Okay, like just think this through. Like if you looked at the last 168 hours that passed, right, the last week, who are the five people? I know you spent your time with more than five, but if you had to narrow it down to the five you spent the most time with, who would those people be? And so Tony would say you are the average of those five. You're the average of how you treat people is the average of those five. The most measurable one, which is kind of obvious, like we'll take their income. You can measure money. You're the average of the five. Take, let's say they're all married, the relationship with their spouse. You're the average of that. If they're dads, you're the average of that. And so, like, it doesn't matter what you want to measure or categorize. You're just the average of those five. It's basically the old phrase that we've all heard, birds of a feather flock together. So after that Tony Robbins seminar, I go back and I started analyzing who are my five. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like my income is only going to go down, right? Like, again, the measurement one. Are these people that inspire me? Do I want to be like them? I'm just looking at all these categories and I'm like, I don't like the picture that I'm seeing that if I'm going to be the average of those five, listen, there's nothing wrong with these five people. They're not bad people. They're just not at the level I want to be at. So Tony would say to all of us, the call to action was get a new five. Don't not spend time with those five. Oh, you're bad people. That's not what he's saying. You're still going to spend time with them. You're just going to be more intentional with your time with other people. So I'd say to anybody who's a senior leader, like, okay, so how often are you taking Stephen Reif out for lunch, breakfast, or dinner? Well, I take my guys out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I'm like, okay. Again, we're just talking about the average of five. Well, Sebastian's in town. Like, well, can I get coffee with Sebastian? I mean, I walked into his office and he was just standing there staring out the window, thoughtlessly. And I'm like, oh, cool. I got one-on-one time with Sabs here. Like, are you scheduling that? Are you meeting up with Marty? Are you meeting up with Freed? Like, just find new friends. Like, make new friends. I was lucky enough years ago to, I met Stephen Wozniak, right? He co-founded Apple with Steve Jobs, right? So I was lucky enough to meet him and we had a conversation and during COVID, I pulled out his old business card. I'm like, I wonder, and I hadn't talked to him since the time I met up with him. And so probably 10 years had gone by, maybe 8 years, something like that. I sent him an email, hey, hope all is well, right at the beginning of COVID in 2020. He sends me this long email back and I'm like, is this really Steve Wozniak or is this some kind of joke? And after enough emails going back and forth, I'm like, this is the Woz. This is the Woz. This is a guy worth billions of dollars, probably the most financially successful person I have ever met. And I got him on email telling me all kinds of stuff that I shouldn't know, right? He was on one of the cruise ships that had to get quarantined upon the first thing of COVID, all this other stuff. And I'm like, I want more people like this. I want a larger network of people that are kicking butt. I was at a Lakers game years ago, right? And Gary's got some pretty killer seats where it's like 3 rows from the floor. You can hear the players talking on the, so it's like, oh, these are just a wonderful way to watch a game. It was back when Kobe was playing. And so not far from me was David Beckham. And at the time he was still playing soccer. And so Beckham's like under the basket in those seats. I'm on the side looking at the Lakers bench. I can still kind of remember this. Him and it's funny, I kept looking at Beckham, looking at Kobe, looking at Beckham, looking at Kobe, because I was there to really study Kobe. Love Kobe Bryant. And Beckham didn't take his eyes off Kobe the entire game. Even when Kobe was on the bench, he wasn't watching the game, he was watching Kobe, almost like he was studying how is he thinking? How is he communicating with his teammates? But it was like the average of 5 to the fullest because Beckham, a superstar, is trying to learn from the other superstars. And you notice all these high-end athletes, they all kind of hang out with each other even though they're not even in the same sport. Like Tom Brady is hanging out with Tiger Woods and like all these elites because they're trying to level up. They're trying to take their average of 5 to another level. So that's really what you're commissioned to do is you got to find 5 new friends and you've got to inspire these people to want to give you more time. So make their time valuable. Like you meet up with some, you find out that Sabs likes coffee from Phil's Coffee. He's going to be in the office and you come in with the coffee, and you're like, here, Sabs, I know this is what you like. Oh, well, you got on my radar for being so thoughtful. That's really nice of you. And then you ask him a couple questions. You do something with those answers. You turn that into results. You come back to Sabs to be like, Sabs, I want more from you. Last we talked for that 3-minute conversation. This is what I did. I'd like another 3 minutes of your time. I guarantee you, you will always get additional minutes. Whether it's Steve Wozniak, whether it's Sebastian, again, you can take any of the world's best at what they do. If you're doing something with the information they're giving you, they are highly motivated to keep this relationship going. But if you're just waiting for 5 new friends to come into your life, it's just never going to happen. You have to be intentional about it. Let's say you're coming into work every day and you happen to notice you met somebody who happens to work in the building, but a totally different business. But you saw the guy park and he's got a Lamborghini down there. You see how he treats people as he's walking into the building. And you're like, okay, there's something about this guy. I mean, he's got enough money to drive a Lamborghini. I like how he treats people. I want to befriend this guy. Next time I see him, I just, hey, sir, I don't know much about you, but I'd like to meet you. I'd like to have breakfast with you one morning. I'd like to bring you your favorite coffee. Like, people are flattered with that kind of stuff. And I have found in my time, most people want to give you their time if you're really intentional about it. Again, you're asking, well, how do you get intentional? It's just observing. It's taking notes, observing, throwing I was at a restaurant the other day, and most people don't ever notice the bus boys. Is that even the right word, where they clean up the tables? This guy was like Neo in the Matrix, okay? Because there's people walking all over the place, and he's the guy, and nobody's making way for him. He's like the low guy in the totem pole. And for whatever reason, I'm just fixated on this guy. So he's the guy, he's making sure he's not bumping into anybody. He is working so hard. He's so smooth. He's walking faster than anybody. He's not getting tips. And I just wanted to just, stop and acknowledge, hey, I've been watching you for a couple minutes here. You are really good at what you do. I've been watching you, you're the guy giving everybody else the right of way. Nobody's really noticing you. I just wanted to tell you that I noticed you. And he started tearing up in his eye. That meant something to him. So I think people appreciate a sincere compliment. So just stop and notice. I think that's probably the starting point. Just stop and notice. Again, you can notice the Lamborghini guy, but you don't say, hey, notice what you drove here. Yeah, everybody notices what I drive. No, I notice how you treat people in the building. I really admire that. I mean, that will mean something to that person, not so much that Lamborghini comment. So just stop and notice. I think